Yay!
It works.
Hey,
Good afternoon, everybody. You join us live for another Kerfuffle panel webinar, and today I have two major winners with us. I've got Zoe Bywater of Belvoir. How are you doing, Zoe?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm not sure what I've won, but maybe there's a prize to come. I don't know.
You have won the likeness contest to this particular cartoon character, Joy. That's exactly who you look like.
That is so wrong on so many levels, but never mind. The effort was there. You made the effort, David. Thanks.
And Richard, obviously a massive, huge congratulations to you guys. You came to the EA Masters empty-handed. You went home with 2 awards, not 1, but 2, including the best overall. So let's start there. What's it like turning up to 1,000 people in a room and not having a clue whether or not you're going to take it, and coming home with the big award?
yeah, I've got to say, yeah, like you do these awards over the years, and you kind of get a bit cynical over time. You think, is our time ever going to come? And so yeah, to get the one in our category was a really nice touch. And then I sat down and I was sort of reveling in the moment, looking at the little plaque that we were given. And then when they called it for overall, we were obviously over the moon. And because I'd had a few glasses of wine by then, so I was socially relaxed, which took the edge off a little bit, because it is a bit daunting getting up there in front of all those people. But what's really nice about those things is that everybody's just really happy to see people celebrating success throughout the room that day. So yeah, it was really nice, and obviously the team were thrilled.
Yeah, no, there was a really sort of nice vibe in the room, and it was nice to sort of see you guys in person, and it's all the better when you can go home having won an award. Zoe and I have very different sort of feelings about what awards might represent to sort of agents and so on.
Mm-hmm.
But to suppliers,
are you throwing me under the bus there, are you, David?
No, not at all, not at all. Oh well, let's out it. We'll talk about it. Awards can be used for, not all awards are equal. There are some awards where obviously you've got customer votes that are included, and I think to me those are always the best awards, because it's the public that decide, it's your customers that decide whether or not you deserve recognition for that. There are some other award categories where you feel it's a little bit more arbitrary, and that you need to fit a certain algorithm to win it. But in this particular case, your award, Richard, is made up of industry votes and clients. So what does it mean to you as a supplier?
Yeah, so I mean, I think that's the bit that that we've always really worked hard on as a team. We want to make sure that we're engaged with our customers and we're listening to what they've got to say and feedback. And I think it works both ways then, because we're responsive in how we support our customers. If we ask them, would you engage with us and give us a review and let us know what you think, they're more inclined to to put themselves forward. And Zoe's been fantastic in doing that kind of thing. Equally, Zoe's reached out to me and said, look, there's areas where you're lacking and you could look to improve. And obviously we take that on the chin and crack on and make the product better, really. But yeah, it does mean, I think, all that it means that little bit more when you know that it has come from votes from people that are actually using you day to day. So yeah, it's a nice feeling.
And it's such a huge, your product is such a huge part of the lettings process in particular. We're always walking a tightrope of legislation, and we need to conform, especially when it comes to compliance. Zoe, how helpful have Inventory Hive been for you in sort of automating your process and getting things done that you may have struggled with previously?
I think one of the things that attracted me to Inventory Hive to start with, and I'll be honest, I've said this before, I came across Inventory Hive by accident, which it was one of those moments where you think, why on earth, where has this been? Why has this not been in my life sooner? Because I just happened to miss a webinar that they were doing about pets. and I got a link, and I thought, oh, I'll just have a look at this. And one of the things that sort of struck me straight away was that the issue around the prescribed information for compliance and how there was a clear audit trail, because it's one of the things that as agents, we're always trying to look at ways we can do this whilst making sure that we're doing everything right and ticking the right boxes. And that was the first thing that sort of attracted me to using the platform. The team have used various different types of platforms, but by far this one, and I always go on what my team say because they're the important ones, because they're using the product more than I do.
Yeah.
I found it really easy to pick up. It is so user friendly, and just actually when you're practically using it out on the ground, they didn't have any problems with it. It never struggles. It never sort of kicks off because they don't have to be on Wi-Fi when they're using it and things like that. And they're both very, very happy with it. So,
yeah,
fantastic.
Which makes me happy too, Zoe. Believe me, it does.
And in terms of that, listen, inventory, if we were to talk about inventory software or reporting software for inspections, I don't want to say they're all the same because they have all got different functionality, but they all serve the same purpose, and that is to properly document the state of a property at various different times. But yours goes a little bit further than that, and the way that you've integrated it into your business, that helps you with compliance. We spoke off camera earlier about the fact that getting a tenant to sign an inventory had always been a difficult part of the process, but this somehow has managed to jump over that slightly.
Yeah, I mean, by nailing them to the floor in the office, which is not what you want to do. And obviously we're coming out of this COVID madness, during that time when you were still doing inventories and stuff, it was getting them to sign. And if you look at any of the sort of deposit protection service or the tenancy deposit service, their rules say ideally they want you to get a tenant to sign. And, if you go to an adjudication when they haven't signed, you're always on the back foot. So having that, and the way that the product works is they get like a pre-notification with the prescribed information, and they sign that. And if they then don't subsequently sign the inventory after getting it, it's almost like that's the default setting. So you've already got that evidence that you require going forwards. So that for me, there are other products out there that maybe do different things, but for me, it's a trade-off, and I much prefer to be able to sleep at night knowing that my compliance is in order, rather than having bells and whistles and fancy templates that I'm sure, will come with time. So that's why I'm pleased to still be working with Richard and his team. Who've been awesome.
Yeah, thanks, Zoe. And equally, some of the things, like I said before, that we're looking to introduce on the roadmap. We've got on Sunday, we've got our virtual tours app coming out, which is on iOS and Android. But then it's custom reports for us, and that's something that we're going to do a sprint on with the devs. So, where we can introduce report types where our users can customize those, and because there's all sorts of compliance these days, as you said, David. Like depending on the type of properties that you're managing, whether it's a building or a residential property, things like fire door inspections, there's all manner of things these days, and obviously we want to give that sort of customizable element to the platform. So that's something we're underway with at the moment. Meeting up with all the devs tomorrow, which is nice really, because they're usually bless them in darkened rooms with the curtains drawn,
The
drinking Red
happiest
Bull.
but the happiest in darkened rooms, I think. I don't think they like the light.
Can I just say, sorry, David, can I just say on the custom reports though, irrespective of that, one of the things that we do as an agency, we do the Legionnaires risk assessments. And George and Mitch and Richard have been really, really helpful. Okay, the custom reports aren't there, but they've provided us with a workaround that means we can still do that. And for us, it's an additional income stream, because we do charge our clients to do the Legionnaires risk assessments. Yeah. So, it's not, you get some suppliers where you have an issue and they will just say, so what? Whereas these guys have bent over backwards to help us with that. And one other thing I want to say, I know you've touched on it, Richard, about your 360-degree tours. It's a two-way thing, because you can use the tours on your inventories now.
Yes. Yeah.
So if you've got a tour, you can put it into the inventory, and vice versa. If you get a tour, you can stick it on your advertising, which I'm sure Richard would probably explain a little bit more techie than me. But
Richard, it's a natural sort of segue, isn't it? If you are documenting a property with a 360-degree camera anyway, it's natural to make it available as a tour, I suppose.
Yeah, this is it. And I think the way that tech's going, I think, you know, a lot of agents, perhaps particularly in the lettings in the lettings arena, have often shunned them in favour of doing a quick video walk around. But actually, you know, these cameras, like, they retail at like £270 for like an entry level camera manufactured by like Ricoh. So they're not expensive to buy those cameras. And actually, they're great for showing like the location of a smoke alarm, light fittings working, the decor, what was in a room. You know, obviously the written word is always the most powerful thing for, you know, for describing something to, you know, to avoid a dispute, and standard photos. And we say, look, it's about having a combination of those things and working, you know, working smart really. But if you had a tenant that went into a property tomorrow and they'd had an inventory with a 360 in each room, when that tenant moves out in 6 months or 12 months, if you want to say, well, actually, I'd like a virtual tour, you can flip those images into a tour and you don't have to go back. And I just think, you know, that tech is becoming more, you know, I think tenants are starting to expect that kind of thing. But I think a lot of agents, because the properties aren't necessarily on the market for long, they sometimes go with that quick video. But I think actually the editing of those videos sometimes takes longer than it would to do a quick tour. And actually, sometimes, you know, I've had you know, walk-arounds of property shot on a video with like heavy breathing in the background. It's not always what you want, is it?
It depends what you're into, I suppose.
Yeah, true, yeah,
Sorry.
absolutely. No, you're absolutely right.
I think the property tours for rented properties are few and far between. If you were to look at sort of the agents advertising them out there, not a lot of them are going to that trouble. And I think the reason for that has always been that it has been, even pre-COVID, there was a very fast-paced market, the letting space. But I think that if COVID's taught us anything, is that we can add value in those areas. I think the landlords probably appreciate it more. And Zoe, if you've got a landlord that perhaps is renting with you today but wants to sell it in 12 months' time, you've got pre-tenancy sort of tours lined up.
Yeah, I think the thing with me and tech is I always try and I'm always wanting to get things that streamline the process, and it doesn't mean I'm cutting corners. And one of the things that obviously, you know, the Inventory Hive software and the tours do is, for me, it saves time. And we save time massively now. And I have a lot of debate and argument about virtual tours and why you should use them for rentals. We pre-qualify all our leads now, and they get a virtual tour. And we only actually go to a property to do a viewing if they commit. So we're not spending hours at a time at a property, waiting for 5, 6, 7, 8 different people. We literally show one person, one property, bang, it's let. You know, London market's probably very, very different, but having that option, that virtual tour, allows us to do that, which saves it. You know, you can spend your time prospecting or doing whatever else you want to do, you know, to generate business then.
I think as well, what's nice about that, Zoe, the way you do it, it's so much fairer for the tenant, because it's such an emotional roller coaster having to source and find a property, whether you're buying or whether you're renting. And actually, if you know you're being pitted in there with 3 or 4 or 5 other tenants, and then sometimes it's like whichever one you like the look of the most on the application, it always feels a little bit unfair. So I think your process is much better. And, you know, for those tenants, they come away having a much more positive experience with you, and they're more likely to come back and use you then, because they know that you've had a little bit of forethought before you've gone through that vetting process. And I think sometimes that's overlooked, isn't it? You know, how it makes, you know, essentially your customer's customer in this case, how it makes them feel. You know, but because those are the ones that are essentially paying the management fee, aren't they? The tenants paying their rent. That's where it comes from.
Do you think, I mean, very often the tenants have always been an overlooked part of the process, that we're not there to satisfy the tenant, we're always there to satisfy either the landlord or the seller. But when you present a tenant with an inventory report that's been professionally done, I guess it makes them feel that they should be taking better care of the property, because you're not the sort of agent that cuts corners in the first place. And you're actually getting it done properly. Do you think that message comes across?
Do you know what I think especially with the Inventory Hive software, is that, and they say, I'm sorry for swearing, but it's not some back of a fag packet inventory with a few crappy photos. It's a very interactive tool. Sorry, David. And obviously having the virtual tour, it's that. I mean, I used to spend ages when I used to do inventories taking what I call an overview of that room, whereas now you've got it already. And tenants, and they realise, because you go into so much detail, then they're not going to have a leg to stand on at the end of the tenancy if there's an issue, because it's there documented fully, and they appreciate that, and then and they respect the property more.
Yeah, and like you say, it's that bit about engaging them at the beginning, really, and that's where Inventory Hive was born. I rented a property several years ago. My wife, we had a bad experience. We thought there's got to be a better way, and then yes, lo and behold, there were other apps that led to like a PDF, but none that really allowed for you to engage. And obviously, what we do is, as you said at the start there, Zoe, text message, and they confirm receipt of the report before they move in, which in turn also gets their express authority to receive those pre-arrival things electronically. And then, of course, when they move in, if there is a problem and they say there's a stain on the carpet, they have to take a photo. Of course, that means that they're not going to get, if you pardon the pun, stung at the end of it, because someone says, oh, it wasn't like that when you moved in, and you don't have any of that tit for tat, because a lot of the times tenants don't bother looking at the inventory until they've moved out, and that's often because it's not given to them in a convenient way, i.e. it's either been printed off, heaven forbid, or it's been emailed, and then they've got to play email tennis, and then it just becomes fragmented then, doesn't it? And it's just, in some ways, it's simple concept, isn't it? But it's I think that's the key part of it, really, isn't it?
Well, Richard, I've seen you've been quoted, and I know these are the sort of throwaway comments that people can make, but I'm sure it's not just platitudes with you. But you've gone on record as saying that, at its core, this property business, and particularly tenants, is a people business. It's all about that communication process. So you've touched on it very briefly, but just take us through how Inventory Hive has sort of grown over the years to get to where it is today, and possibly what can we expect to see in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. So, in terms of where we started, we were very much wanted to be, an open platform for anybody that wanted to create a report, whether it be an individual landlord with one property, right through to, in our case, we have universities on board, and, build to rent providers. So it's about having that, that accessible platform where, little things like, of course, it's not necessarily viable for us to train an individual landlord via personal screen share, whereas it is viable for us to do that with a letting agent. So we overcome that by, doing live stream sessions like the one we're doing now, and having, a handful of landlords on all at the same time. And that's one, we never dilute the service, whether you've got one property or you've got 1,000. Everybody gets the same level of support. But in terms of the roadmap and where we're going next, obviously, this coming Sunday we released the virtual tours app, which is a really big step, because we know that kind of tech has always been, costly to produce, and in many cases time consuming, because typically you buy a 360 camera, you take the snaps on the camera, which is on the camera gallery, then you'd have to come back and plug it into your computer and go, right, that was the kitchen in this room, or that was the bathroom at that house, and that's such a pain in the ass to do. So the way that we set it up was, right, you tag it via our app and the camera. So if you're in a kitchen of a certain property, it knows that. So when you come away, it's all tagged in the right place. You can then jump on your laptop or your computer and then finish it off on the website. So that's a big thing for us. And then, as we said before, the customizable reports. And then we've got some really exciting stuff for next year, but I can't tell you that at the moment because I'd have to kill you. And if we've got competitors on.
Oh, he's keeping us waiting. I didn't know you had any competitors. I would
No, we
imagine
haven't. No,
the inventory space is very, it's very sparse.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, that's what, and you're right there. It is a competitive, game that we're in. So we really do have to do things that kind of set us apart. And then that's why it's a mix of sort of listening and responding to customers, but always having a few tricks up our sleeve is how we've always approached it. So.
And Rich, you mentioned there that obviously you would treat, every landlord, no matter how big the portfolio, the same. I'm presuming the agents that you work with, is there a big difference between, say, a corporate entity which has many branches, or dealing with somebody who's a franchisee, or smaller independents? Do you have a sweet spot?
Yeah, I think for us, it's catch-22, isn't it? We've always said it's nice to have lots of independents and franchisees because the safety in numbers, isn't there? It's generally quite, we have a really low churn. Generally, we get customers in and they don't, we don't lose many very often. Obviously, every business loses customers from time to time, and you always have to sort of sharpen your pencil with that. But yeah, I think independents right through to larger groups, really, they're just different by their nature. I mean, obviously, I say it's nice to have lots of little ones, but also, of course, it's great to have lots of big ones as well, isn't it? But because it's the same principle, really. But often, the bigger clients that they like to come in and be heavily integrated with the platforms that they're using. But equally, I think that's the industry is really waking up to that now. With the likes of Repeat, with Marketplace, and having the ability for you to tap into that. I think that's where prop tech has really changed in the last couple of years. Agents kind of understand that. And to shout out like the depository as an example, that those guys are really forward thinking in that actually integrations aren't just about pulling through property data. They're about looking at what actually takes up a lot of time. And obviously end of tenancy processes like the depository is a big thing, and obviously those guys really saw that and brought something really innovative. So obviously for us, integrating with things like the depository and Fixflow and all these other platforms is really, really important.
Zoe, do you remember the days where we used to do everything on a spreadsheet?
Well, I didn't. It was a Word document for me and no photos. So yeah, I've been around long enough to know that.
But
So we've moved on.
But the landscape for letting agents who are doing it properly has changed so much over the past 10 years. You'd be forgiven for sort of saying it's a bit of a hostile space sometimes, because it feels like we're on ever changing ground. Just when you've got to grips with one piece of legislation, they introduce something else. I'm presuming that this kind of tech helps you feel a little bit more in control of what you can control in that process.
Yeah, I mean, Richard's just touched on the depository, but the integration between the TDS, Inventory Hive, and the depository is fantastic. And 3 companies working together like that, for me, is amazing, because it used to be a bit dog eat dog, and now it seems everyone wants to work together for the same goal. And it's really, for anyone that's with PDS, they should be looking at the depository and Inventory Hive, because it's going to streamline their business no end. And this end of tenancy is probably, if you speak to anyone in lettings, is the most uncomfortable and worst part of the job. And
That's
what
huge.
the 3 partners do is make the job, I won't say a breeze, but a lot easier and a lot more less stressful, actually, because you're not worrying about it.
Superb. Yeah. I suppose that translates through to the service that you're giving your landlords as well. So they're happy with the work that you're doing. There's less arguments, because agents always used to get caught in the middle adjudicating between sort of landlord and tenant. It's an uncomfortable place to be, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's the emotional piece as well, isn't it? Obviously, end of tenancy can be an emotional time for tenants in particular and landlords, and that's one thing that the depository does really well. Is it kind of removes that emotion, because it's very objective, it's very fact based, and obviously that's why with Inventory Hive and the way that they move in and the way they engage at the start, obviously that has doubled up with something like the depository. Can really remove that emotion, and obviously again it's all about time, isn't it? And because if an agent has less pushback on a deposit deduction, then you've got in theory happier tenants, happier landlords.
Less friction all round, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're getting some love here in the comments. So Jen, who I'm presuming is sat on the other side of the office to you, Zoe.
She's an honorary Viking, looking at that picture.
It's a great picture.
Oh yeah, I've just spotted that. Yeah.
We haven't just got an honorary Viking, we've got an actual real life Viking writing in. And Christian says, joking aside, he loves Inventory Hive, such an amazing platform with an amazing tenant engagement and sign-off process. Our integration, extracting dilapidations, removed the need for property managers to ever read a checkout report again, whilst providing tenants with a detailed evidence deduction proposals. Win, win, win. You can't get better than that, can you? endorsed by suppliers and agents alike. A massive congratulations to Inventory Hive once again.
Can I just say a little? Yeah, just say that, mega fan. I just want to say as well, the guys at Inventory Hive have been amazing with us because I am, you know me, David, I'm a little bit picky and very particular. And they've been
heard
really,
it said before.
you know, some supplies like I'm not going to the end of that now, am I? Some supplies will not budge and will not be flexible and will not help you. We have little problems, and you know, even if they haven't got the time to make a phone call, you get what is amazing, you get a little video from them with like an explanation. And I just think it's, you know, it's really good. And you know, just keep up the good work. It's, you know, I'm really happy as an agent, and you know, anyone watching should get a demo. Yeah,
thank you. I really appreciate that, Zoe. Yeah, it means the world. And yeah, on the video thing as well, that we brought that in January. It's a platform called Loom, which is, you know, screen share software where you can just click a few buttons and it records it. I think it's great for personalizing things and talking people through stuff. So I think it's the kind of thing that would work well with like a virtual tour as well, because as you said before, sometimes people want to have a video, but you could shoot a virtual tour, and then as an agent, you could then talk through the property in a couple of minutes and walk around the rooms and highlight the nice bits. We're going to be doing a webinar on that in a few weeks. So we've got like David Voter, the ARLA president, and a couple of other agents coming on and talking us through how they would do a commentary remotely on a virtual tour. So that should be quite a cool one.
I wonder who's going to be on that panel. But
of course, yeah, David, you're on that as well. I totally forgot to write.
I'll tell you what's
just
really
the penny just dropped. Yeah. I never mentioned you. How rude of me, David.
That has been organised. You know what? In fairness, David Votter is a much bigger name than I am. You see me around in more locations, but he's a big name. But what I will say is that use of Loom actually is quite. It's a very simple tool, and you can use it. This is a tip for agents, really, but you can use it to demonstrate anything you like to a vendor. So when you go out and you pitch to somebody in their living room, you've got a finite amount of time, and there's only so many things that you can show them and tell them. But if you wanted to send them something afterwards and say, oh, look, by the way, this is the type of 360 tour that we do, or this is the type of inventory report that you can expect to receive on your property, or you want to show them a little bit more detail, that Loom video that you can drop them is tremendously, it's just really effective in getting the message across. It doesn't feel like you've forgotten anything. More than that, you're underlining everything that you've done in the room already, and you get a second chance at it. So if you didn't connect for whatever reason the first time, have another go.
Yeah, it is. It's a cool tool, and like obviously a big thing for me is you know, like little things like I wake up at the crack of dawn, and then I like to crack on with my day, and sometimes people are still asleep while I start working, and that means like I can't necessarily arrange Teams with them because it'd be a bit rude to wake them up. Whereas I can do a quick Loom and then fire it out, and I know I've had that communication. So you know.
Loom is also getting a lot of love there from the team at the depository. The fabulous prop tech Carla Burnett there. Definitely worth checking them out. This is a system that works well with others. You play well with others, and that collaboration is adding value for the agents. I'd like to thank Zoe very, very much for giving your precious time up to talk to us today. And Richard, it's always nice to see you. Massive congratulations from all the team here at Kerfuffle. Really, really, really well deserved.
Yeah, thank you as well. It's obviously, you know, Kerfuffle helping us get the message out there as well has been a real game changer for us as well. So yeah, much love to both of you. Thank you.
No problem. See you all again soon.
Bye.
Right, take care. Bye.